James was a fresh new idea. I'd been doing the nerd episodes for a while, and then it seemed like Board James was just a totally new thing because a lot of people review video games, but nobody did board games. Not as often because I think like with video games, lots of people have emulators, and so almost anybody could do it. But with a board game, you have to have the board game. There's really no other way, and it's such a more tangible thing. Like having a physical game, you could actually film it yourself and film it from whatever angle you want, and it's really more like making a movie a little bit because the nerd episodes, it's mostly just, you're recording yourself playing the game. So it definitely brought a third dimension to everything, and that's what I really like.
And it also, didn't it just start because you felt like making a video about Mousetrap? I think I remember you telling me.
Yeah, it was something else, because you know how we review all kinds of different things on the site. It was just a Cinemassacre board game review, Mousetrap. And I think when you drew the title card for that one, you put glasses on me, so I think you might even been thinking it was the nerd. I don't know.
Well, I remember thinking, like, immediately, James was like, I'm going to review Mousetrap, and then I saw the video, and James was almost done with it, and I thought to myself, wait a second, this has a lot of potential here because, there's so many franchise board games. There's Star Wars board games. There's Ninja Turtle board games. I'm like, you know what? This could become a series.
Yeah,
so
and a character, and it wasn't a character in the first one.
Yeah, it was just kind of like the Simon's Quest video was just you. It wasn't a character.
Yeah.
So it was really had the same progression as the nerd.
Same thing as the nerd. The second episode is what brought the character on. So Dragon Strike was actually a game I always wanted to play. As a kid, I played it a lot, but because it took so much imagination and it was kind of involved, it intimidated a lot of people. So a lot of my old friends would either get bored or they don't want to play the game. So that kind of thing we put into the videos.
It's a good series because it started out as you just reviewing board games, and then as it went on, you took it in different directions. Where I come in and it becomes almost like a slapstick kind of thing,
or a sitcom or something.
Yeah, exactly. And what's different also about the Board James series from Angry Video Game Nerd, Angry is in his name, is in the title of the thing, and then Board James, you could just actually seriously review the games and get funny with
Board James doesn't have to be angry.
Let the games be funny or as bad as they are. Just let it speak for itself. I think, did you have that in mind when you were starting the Board James thing? Was that almost like were you trying to get away a little bit from the angry
I think so. It really was like kind of just a side project, like an escape, because it's just like I was kind of doing the same thing with that character, and it was like I want to do something else where I don't have to be angry. I could just do whatever I want to do, and that's what I really love about those, that I love that they're more like movies. They're a lot shorter than the nerd episodes. I feel like there's not as much pressure. I don't have to go into every detail of the game. A lot of it's more like just reenacting those old commercials that we watched, because there's always that part in the video where we go into a montage, and it's really like editing a music video, which is
it's like the Crossfire video.
Yeah,
the first one, right? That you guys really did with the montage and everything.
Yeah, and to get into like these guys' characters with Mike, we just kind of like...
That was actually the first video I was ever in, was that Crossfire video, as far as not being some sort of character like the Joker or Bugs Bunny or anything like that.
You started with like Jason Voorhees had a mask on, and then like by the time you got to the Klingon and the Joker, you had makeup on, so you kept getting down to your face more. And in Crossfire it was the first time ever on the site I think you showed your face.
We were having a conversation, I remember, like, oh, we're just going to call you, like, Mike, or we're going to come up with, like, a name, or I was like, I don't know what to do, and then you were like, let's just call you Motherfucker Mike, and I'm like, all right, that sounds good, or whatever, so you came up with the name Motherfucker Mike, actually.
Yeah, because you're playing a game, you're like, you motherfucker, it's just kind of, it's something you call your friends.
Right.
And that's another thing, is that we wanted it to be, like, all about things that happen to you when you're playing games as a kid, and everybody always had that friend that cheats all the time, so that's what...
And that was perfect for me, because I cheat a lot in real life, too. So.
Yeah. and most of these games are really ones that I actually played as a kid, so a lot of times whenever there's something happens in the video, that really happened in real life. Like at the end of the Hero Quest video, when at the end when you're like, I don't feel like playing this, that's just like in real life. I had friends who just... somebody's mom might have called them in for dinner or something, or something like that. And Battle Masters, that was one where we all just gave up, because we you open up the game and it's so awesome, and then you start setting up all the pieces and everything, and you got to put little stickers on, stick the flags.
By the time you set it up, you're tired. You're ready to go get something to eat and go to bed.
And you keep having to make more room. You have to keep getting more space to set it up, and finally it's just like, okay, that's enough.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned, a lot of these games you played when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Tornado Rex was a game that was my favorite game as a kid, and that was the birth of my involvement in board games.
Yeah.
Like, I got to be in this video.
Yeah.
Like, this is my favorite game. I had to contribute somehow to this. Whether it's the music or something, I had to be a part of this Tornado Rex thing. It was my favorite game.
Yeah.
You were kind enough to let me.
Okay.
And we went in there, recording the Tornado Rex video, not knowing who I was, what my character was going to be. I remember, like, as the cameras were set up, we still didn't know what we were doing. As far as I went, we had Motherfucker Mike, who was like a cheater, and then we had to figure out what kind of character I was going to be. And we just came up, kind of on the spot. And I fucked everything up, and I'm like, it was like that goofy kid. He's kind of like sympathetic, where you hate him, but you can't totally hate him, because he means well. Yeah. And I think from what I remember, at least, that's what we came up with on the spot. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we didn't. I don't think we had an ending to Tornado Rex until we were filming it. We were trying to do
Tornado Rex. There was something about that. It was so short and sweet, just so simple and to the point. And the song was really catchy. And one of the great things about that was that we never heard the real song. There actually is a real song. I'm glad we didn't see that commercial first, because
there was one song. I just want to mention there was one song before that in the Crossfire video. Song recorded, which
that was
great,
Lachlan Barclay. He recorded that for us, and that's basically that's a cover of the Crossfire commercial theme.
And I thought that was really cool. And then you sort of made that was actually the first music video.
Well, that's the thing. It's like we would have probably covered the old song, but thankfully we didn't hear it, so we came up with our own original song. Well, that was all you.
For Tornado Rex.
Yeah, for Tornado Rex, yeah. And I remember when you first sent me the song, I was like, oh, listen to this, check it out. And I just loved all those different things that happened in it, like, that gave me a chance to edit more. Like the part where the devil calls your name, and I put the Tornado Rex devil up on the screen, and like there were things that there was so much potential to edit with, and it's such a catchy song too. So
I knew I had to write it, and I asked you, I'm like, how long should it be? And you said, well, the guy who did the Crossfire thing, what was it, like it might have been a little too long.
I think I gave him, because I'm starting to learn better how to direct people with music, because it's like when you're editing, unless you have it already cut up, because you want to cut to the music, you kind of want the music there to kind of dictate the timing of what you want to put in there, but you still have to have an idea of how much footage you have. And with Crossfire, it was just a guess. I was like, okay, well, how about 2 minutes? And then I found out I didn't really have that. I was using every scrap of footage I had to fill those 2 minutes. So with Tornado Rex, I think we had it closer to what we thought was necessary.
So from that point on, it's always been just like 1 minute. Just give me like you'd always just go a 1 minute song. That's fine. That'll be good for a montage. Doesn't want to go like on too long.
Yeah. And
usually in like the late '80s, early '90s, these commercial songs were like overly aggressive, or they try to make these
like power ballad.
Yeah, it's like this fast guitar and like this singer who's like hitting falsetto, and like it's for this game made of like cardboard and plastic and glue. It's like nothing. It's just like a game. But then you see these kids like in the jungle. And just imagine like
and Fire by a Law. It's kind of like that, I think.
Yeah, you're like in reality, it's like a couple of kids like playing
in
the basement.
All right, my turn. All right, spin the wheel.
These kids like think they're going to be in the jungle playing with Tornado Rex, and they're in their parents' basement as their parents are like getting drunk upstairs or something. Who knows? But like, so there's always like this fake like kind of pretense with these songs, these commercial songs, and I wanted to go over the top with it.
Yeah.
With Tornado Rex, I knew. I tried to imagine what. If it did have a commercial, what the song would be, and I thought it'd be like this distorted guitar and this like fake kind of metal, and I took it like a little further.
And it does have a commercial, but we didn't find that out until later.
Afterwards, and I heard it. It's funny because I heard the other song, and I'm like, oh, this sucks. My song's actually better than this. You know, I'm like, oh man, it's like some stupid like tornado rays. It's like so bad. Yeah. That's why I never took off. That's why obscure game. They needed me to write the song
exactly.
for it.
Yeah.
Big mistake.
And then Dream Phone. A lot of people. Every time I show somebody that video, they're like, oh, I don't remember this song. I'm like, that's because it wasn't written. Like, everybody thought that was a real song. It's like, real. And then when they see the credit come up at the end, it's like, I thought that sounds just like it's from the 80s. I didn't know that that was like.
But there's a line in there, something about like sleeping in the bed or something, which obviously wouldn't be in the commercial.
That's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah, I mean,
because I remember when I did the Tornado Rex video, he said, can you drop like something like an F-bomb in there or something so people will realize by the end that it's not the actual commercial song, right? Like, you wanted some kind of separation from the Tornado Rex song, so that's why it ends with like you better fucking abide. And Dream Phone, I don't drop like any profanity, but there's a line in it. It's like he's gonna make my dreams come true. My bed has room enough for two. Yeah, it's like kind of like perverted. Like
exactly.
Like, it's 12-year-old, 13-year-old girls, and it's like this,
I know,
sexual innuendo or whatever. And it's funny too because when you look at the comments, people are like, "What the fuck was this song?" And people are like offended by it.
They think it's like a real song.
Yeah, they thought it was real. A lot of things, like a lot of the videos we were talking about, like we kind of come in with like the ones that I'm in at least. We come in with like a basic idea of what we're going to do, but there's no really set script. Yeah. A lot of it is made up on the spot, and, we just roll with the punches. One of those videos is Shark Attack. I remember you did write a script, and it called for us to be outside on the beach, which would have made it a great video. The aesthetics of it, I even got like that old Victorian bathing suit and the mustache and everything. But we only had one day to film. And you came to the Jersey Shore, and there was a huge storm raining, and there was just absolutely no way we could do it.
There was a tornado. There was a tornado.
That's right.
We did. Real tornado. Yep.
Tornado Rex.
Yep.
And so then we had to kind of roll with the punches and come up with a different ending, and just kind of write it on the go. Yeah. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it works better than others, but it's kind of fun to live on like a high wire like that, and just kind of trust yourself and try to make best with what you have.
Mr. Bucket was the first Board James epic, where that video, I remember I worked on that for an entire month. It took me a month of just doing that video and nothing else. Whereas Dream Phone, actually, which came later, took many months because we kept taking a break and going back to it. It was just the idea of, the commercial was so funny to begin with. We wanted to do something that parodied the commercial, but I always thought, well, what if Mr. Bucket was a horror character and he's stalking Board James? So that was really the first time it was a horror episode, and then Dream Phone was sort of just like a sequel to that, basically. But Mr. Bucket was a really hard one to shoot because the bucket doesn't move like that. I had to, really what it does, it goes backwards in a circle, and there's two wheels on the back, and one wheel has one part that's flat, so every time it gets to the flat part, it kind of, turns itself. So it just goes in a circle. So what I had to do was put a bunch of duct tape and different pieces of things at the bottom to get the wheel rounded so that it would keep going backward, and then I would reverse it. But for every shot, I had to adjust it because sometimes I wanted the bucket to come out like at an angle. So whenever I did that, basically it would widen the circle. So instead of him doing a circle like this, he would do this really wide one. So I would just get this great turn, and I'd have to do take after take after take until the bucket did what I wanted it to do. And then I would play it in reverse, so it would look like he's coming to me.
It's engineering at its finest.
It is, Mr. Bucket. So by the end of that video, I was toying around with that thing for so long, and even when I thought I was done with the bucket, I'd put it in the box, I'd put it away. I'm editing the video, and then I'm like, oh fuck, I need sound. Like now I'm at the sound part, and I'm like, okay, for whatever reason, you just didn't get the sounds that you wanted, and I just need a little bit of jingling or any kind of sound. I would have to keep going back and getting the bucket out again. So I was recording that bucket for about a month, and by the end of it, I started to feel like I was actually going insane, and I didn't even want to look at the thing anymore. And it's like all these, odd hours of the night working around the clock on this. So I started to feel like the bucket was actually coming after me.
I just think that's funny. I've been recording this bucket for a month. Just like a bucket sitting there.
And I think the whole thing with me, with the bucket, and I'm laying on the ground, and the bucket's like eating my balls, I think that was improv.
Yeah.
So the whole ending of that we came up with that part of it on the spot.
I think it was the best choice, because drowning it was so much more disturbing than burning it or something. Because at first it was going to be like, oh, we're going to blow it up.
Speaking of the Dream Phone video and all that, how was recording the voice for the phone itself?
Well, James could say what you had in mind, at least.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had a lot. Actually, it's funny. We were just talking about it before, but we were talking about how many different voices we were thinking about that the phone would be. And one of the ideas that we were talking about was like Hal was one idea. And then, what was the most...
From 2001, Space Odyssey.
Yeah,
Hal, right?
Exactly. And then Black Christmas was an idea that came to mind.
Absolutely.
And then you mentioned one earlier. What was you were thinking of?
Well, there was... initially going into it, I wanted it to be like Black Christmas, where it was like, you know, like actually a mix between that and Reagan from Exorcist, the voice for the phone. We were trying to come up with like a common ground, and it's interesting too, because it starts out as like Hal, as he gets a little more impatient, a little edgy. It kind of reveals as the layers peel away. You see this like maniac phone, voice over the phone. Filming, I think it was 2 days in a row. We did like the shark attack thing. One day, and then that was all day, and then the next day we started the Dream Phone. So we're doing that all day, and the last thing that we did at night was the voiceover for the phone.
Yeah.
I just want to be your dream phone. I'm not going to hurt you with this knife. I'm just going to cut your fucking body to pieces. When you work that long and you're a little tired, your mind becomes a little more abstract. Mm-hmm. Things get like a little funnier that wouldn't normally be. You find, the humor comes out.
That's why we laugh a lot in the outtakes, as you can see.
Right. And I remember thinking if we recorded that earlier in the day, if that was the first thing we did, it wouldn't be as funny. Yeah. Or as like raw or as like dark as it was. But I was like real tired, and we were just like in a weird place, I guess, like trying to figure it out.
We wanted it to be disturbing. We just wanted it to be like really creepy.
So I remember as you were trying to get me to find the right tone of voice for the Dream Phone, I remember two things came to mind as I started getting into it and started rolling. One, oddly enough, I had a Sega Genesis game called Boxing's Greatest Heavyweights, and they all had these taunts where they, in this corner, Jack Dempsey, and they cheer, and he goes, I'm going to crush your skull. And another was... There's this famous speech by the civil rights leader, Adam Clayton, and he's saying to like the crowd, he goes through this long thing. He's like, "What's in your hand? What's in your hand?" He's like, "Who are you? Who are you? What's your name?" It's like this great, inspiring thing. But those were the two.
Was there actually an effect on your voice, or is that just flat out your voice in the video?
Well, there's a phone effect on it, but other than that,
otherwise it's my actual voice, and that was because we've been speaking all day, and my voice is a little gravelly and everything, so it wound up like working out. And
one of the concerns was that the voice would sound too much like Bootsy, so we wanted to make sure it wasn't too much like your regular voice. But at the same time, we kind of liked the idea that it was a red herring, that they might think it actually was Bootsy calling James up on the phone, which who really did the murders is still kind of up for debate, to tell you the truth.
You find me dead in the closet, and that's like you said, red herring.
And who knows if it was just a prank from Bootsy. Still, maybe he was playing a prank, or it could just have all been in Board James's mind.
You never know.
Because people have pointed out things that, like, at the end of the Shark Attack video, Board James is flipping out on his friends saying, I just want to play a fucking game. Mm-hmm. And then you have the phone saying the same thing back to Board James, like, I just want to play a game. So is it really like a split personality?
Little things you have to look for in these videos.
Or you could just say it was a pink phone that was trying to kill him. It never was, just to be clear, it never was intended as this is the final episode ever, but we just knew that there's going to be a long break. It's a good spot to stop it and go into a break, but there are definite plans. Board James was a fresh new idea. I'd been doing the nerd episodes for a while, and then it seemed like Board James was just a totally new thing, because a lot of people review video games, but nobody did board games, not as often, because I think like with video games, lots of people have emulators, and they're so almost anybody could do it. But with a board game, you have to have the board game. There's really no other way, and it's such a more tangible thing. Like having a physical game, you could actually film it yourself and film it from whatever angle you want, and it's really more like making a movie a little bit, because the nerd episode is mostly just, you're recording yourself playing the game. So it definitely brought a third dimension to everything. That's what I really like.
And also, didn't it just start because you felt like making a video about Mousetrap? I think I remember you telling me.
Yeah, it was something else, because you know how we review all kinds of different things on the site. It was just a Cinemassacre board game review, Mousetrap. And I think when you drew the title card for that one, you put glasses on me, so I think you might even been thinking it was the nerd. I don't know.
Well, I remember thinking, like, immediately, James was like, I'm going to review Mousetrap, and then I saw the video, and James was almost done with it, and I thought to myself, wait a second, this has a lot of potential here, because there's so many franchise board games. There's Star Wars board games. There's Ninja Turtle board games. I'm like, you know what? This could become a series.
Yeah,
so
and a character, and it wasn't a character in the first one.
Yeah, it was just kind of like the Simon's Quest video was just you. It wasn't a character.
Yeah.
So it was really had the same progression as the nerd.
Same thing as the nerd. The second episode is what brought the character on. So Dragon Strike was actually a game I always wanted to play.